familiar.
My wife has them because she runs all the time. I was out walking, and last time I did a super long, like 12,000 step walk was my 4th of July, and I gave myself heat exhaustion. So I felt like
what are they
for 2 days. It's basically like some sort of recovery drink, but it tastes halfway like a Truly, and I don't really like Trulies. I don't really like seltzer stuff, but she doesn't like Gatorade, so we don't have any of that around. But I was like, shit, I better have one of these because I got all hot and bothered.
I get it. Well, now you're seeing me, so you'll probably get even more hot and bothered.
Oh, it's off the charts. All right, Stochastic, here we go. It's your old pal EMac coming to you on a Sunday afternoon here with one Matt Belman. Matt whispering sweet nothings into my ear before we started the show. I am all fatutzt, shall we say. How are you doing? Did you crush last night? Did you rip the slate's heart out and show it to it while it was still beating?
No, not quite. It was I was telling you before we started, not a good early slate for me. Too many of the teams that were really popular just went off. I mean, you needed all a ton of guys went off on that slate. Reese Hines, the Philly guys, et cetera, et cetera. And then on the night slate, I was telling you I didn't use Dylan Cease. So I figured I was dead in the water. Didn't take anything down, but had one lineup creep into the top 10 of the contest I was in because of the Arizona stack. Not just Corbin Carroll, but their catcher, Herrera, who was like 3% owned, 3 hits, just part of the stack. And it wasn't even like that. My secondary stack was really good because it was San Francisco 1, 2, 3. So they each got like a hit and an RBI, but yeah, kind of a lower scoring night with Soriano pitching well. So that kind of played it hand in hand for me because Seattle was popular.
Yeah, I was watching the Dylan Cease because we had talked about how we wanted to go against him, etc.
He was phenomenal.
First strike on his first 8 batters. He started out strike 1. He ended up with 11 strikeouts. Yeah.
His average velocity this year is like 96.4, I think, and that's the highest of his career. He was averaging 98 point something yesterday. Was hitting 100. He had only hit 100 like twice in his career before yesterday and hit it 3 times yesterday. So he was on one facing his hometown team, if that's something you want to read into.
Yeah, it was a good one. It was a good one. So I had a okay. God, it could have been so much better. I hit a 3-team parlay because I've been working more on those now because I get like a little ticket every day that if your team's leading after 3 innings and you lose, you get your bet back on what is it, Hard Rock. So I've been playing more money lines because it only counts on the money lines. So then you get 1 ticket per day. So I've been a little more selective, but I've also gotten into doing some parlays, and I've just missed somehow the Nationals came back. I thought the Brewers had that one in hand, and otherwise I would have had another $400. But it was a pretty good day. It wasn't your massive night, but I won about $500. I'll take that. I'll take that. Let's look at today's slate. So checking out the weather here, there should not be anything too crazy. A little bit in Philadelphia, a little bit in New York. Nothing that should be more than a glancing shower, if even that. So we're looking pretty good. Very warm across a lot of the venues. That is continuing because, again, global warming. Well, and it's the summer. But you're looking at low 90s in Philadelphia. The humidity is going to be around 60%. That's some serious home run weather. And then we saw St. Louis yesterday. They're looking at it again today. It's in the 90s there. Humidity also around 60%, 10 to 15 mile an hour breeze going out to left center. So that is some fun to be had. But let's start off with the pitching here, Matt. Take us to the top because it's not as good as it was yesterday. All today's good pitchers are on the 4-game late slate.
Yeah, not a great slate of pitching, especially with so many games. So in turn means a lot of bats in good spots, but for now we'll focus on the pitching. And for me, I don't love any pitchers up top, but I really don't like any cheap pitchers. So my 2 favorite pitchers on this slate are Keller and Lodolo. Again, Both of them are good. They're not aces, but they're very good DFS pitchers when they're pitching well. I think those two guys have the highest upside of any pitchers on the slate in very good matchups. If you tell me the three teams you want to pick on, the White Sox, the Marlins, and the Rockies. So you're getting the White Sox and Marlins here. Obviously, the Marlins get a ballpark upgrade, but I still like Lodolo here. I don't think you can take too much out of his last start. Again, he hasn't pitched well in 2 starts, and I know he's coming back from a little bit of I think it was a blister.
There's a blister on his throwing hand.
Okay, so I mean, he was fine last time out. That can always pop up, a la Rich Hill, but I'm not playing him because of that. But more so, he was very good at the beginning of that game against Colorado, and then there was weather, like an hour delay. They brought him back, and he just didn't have it when they brought him back. So I'm not worried about that at all. He's pricey, and I don't like that. So I'll have to get a little bit weird with bats, but I just think Keller and Lodolo really stand out, at least in my eyes. And then Quintana, he's pitching well right now. He's cheap, and he's in a great spot against Colorado. I can't do it personally. Like, I actually like some Colorado bats against Quintana. Now, it's the day before the All-Star break, so you could potentially get tons of these teams just sleepwalking through, dead man walking, if you will, and Colorado would be a prime candidate to be one of those teams. But on paper, like, I understand the Quintana love because of his price tag, his recent form, and the matchup, but he's not a great pitcher by any means at this point in his career. He's not really a good DFS pitcher. His actual numbers are okay, slightly under 4 ERA. His underlying metrics are significantly worse. And there's a lot of leverage going against Quintana today. So while I understand it, I definitely prefer Keller and Lodolo. And the other guy getting love with Quintana is Pepio. And I like Pepio more than Quintana if I had to choose. He's slightly cheaper, and I think he's the better DFS pitcher, but way worse matchup for Pepio. So I think they're comparable, and I don't really want to play either of them. That's why I'm, for me, focusing on Keller and Lodolo. And I know those guys aren't sure things, but I think they're the surest things we have, and they have the highest upside. And then I'll mention Ronald Blanco. He's number 1 in the top pitcher tool, like basically tied with Keller. This is what we see with Blanco all the time now. He's 10K, so he's too expensive versus talent level, but he's getting no love, and he is the top pitcher in the top pitcher tool. So I wouldn't fault anyone for prioritizing Blanco on a slate like this when we just don't have good options. For me, I like Keller and Lodolo, and then there's a pretty big drop. And yeah, that's how I see it. How about you?
So it's funny that when I was laughing. Someone said I just woke up. Oh, I've been up since the crack of dawn, written my article, done a lot of research, went for a 4.5-mile walk, took the dog for her walk. It's been a productive morning.
It's about time for your siesta. Forget
exactly. We're gonna take the old guy nap around 2:00, wake up just in time for the 4:00 games. So it's gonna be a good one here. So funny enough, Keller didn't really come up in what I was looking at this morning, and I was a little bit surprised. And I think it's mostly because Quintana and Pepio are coming in at cheaper prices, and then Lodolo is just popping in his matchup, and that bothers me a little bit. But I'm glad I'll be getting there when I'm using the Sims, because I always like to look and see who's facing the White Sox, right? And it wasn't I didn't recommend him. Now, I'm not saying don't play him by any stretch. He's definitely a top 5 pitcher, but I try to focus in on, who would I be in my cash games? And I think there's an argument that Keller could be one of your 2 pitchers in your cash games on DraftKings, but I ended up going with Jose Quintana. Now, key things we want to know about Quintana. 1, he's been really, really good this year. This is like his age 34 or 35 season. So he's been around for quite a long time. He's coming off back-to-back outings against the Nationals, 2 7 scoreless inning appearances, home and away, against the Nationals. We know that Citi Field is one of the better pitching parks in the league. The strikeouts haven't really been there. In those 2 outings, he had just 6 strikeouts and 4 walks. Now, he only allowed 5 hits. So the Nationals are pretty good at limiting strikeouts. In his 5 June starts, Quintana had 24 innings, 26 strikeouts. Now, for the season, he's around just in the high 7s. per nine. So they're there. He's just not quite really a strikeout pitcher anymore at this point of his career. We talked about how bad the Rockies are. So I pulled up some more WRC plus information here. So weighted runs created plus is an advanced metric. It neutralizes ballpark factors and a variety of other variables to kind of create a scoring efficiency baseline if everything else was neutral, right? So the Rockies are, a bottom 3 team scoring at home. Oh my God, that can't be true because they put up all these runs. Yeah, the raw totals. But from an efficiency standpoint, they should be doing even more than they are when they're at home. That's how poorly they're going. So they're bottom 5 against lefties. They're bottom 3 on the road and bottom 2 at home. Those are with 81 WRC plus. So what that means is they're scoring runs 19% less efficiently than league average, which is not good. That's like a full standard deviation away from league average. So that's important to note. They also had, funny enough, 6 different starters. Let me see who's in their starting lineup since I refreshed that. They were projected to have 6 different hitters in the lineup that strike out 28% or higher. Yep, and they do. So Ezekiel Tovar, Ryan McMahon, Jacob Stallings, Toglia, Bouchard, and Hunter Goodman. Bouchard's in because Nate Jones is on the injured list again with his back issue. So those guys all strike out 28% or higher. So I think that Quintana is good enough to take what the opposition will give him. And that to me looks pretty good. And other funny news, Charlie Blackmon has had himself a career against Jose Quintana. I think it's only 1 or 2 extra base hits, but he's batting like 500. I'll let Sean V put those numbers in chat for us. But those 2 guys have been in the league forever, so they've had plenty of time to go against each other. It's like 25 or 30 at bats. So it was like when we had Ichiro Suzuki and Felix Hernandez. Those guys were around long enough for the same teams that they ended up having a lot of history. Now, for those of you thinking sample size, yeah, this was collected over 12 years for these guys, or 10 years. The varying levels of ability for both of them during that time. So I don't want to read anything into it. I just thought it was kind of funny for that. Lodolo, I like. You mentioned, I forgot about the rain out, and that they did bring him back because they didn't bring, I forget who was pitching for Colorado, but they didn't bring them back, but they did bring Lodolo back. So he only threw 69 pitches despite
Quantrill,
despite sitting out that. But you're right. He just it wasn't a great outing. The other thing that's a little nervous, makes me a little nervous for Lodolo is we like his strikeouts. Only twice in his last 9 starts has he had more than 6 strikeouts. That's just a little thing in the concern column. 22% strikeout rate against lefties for the Marlins. Remember how bad I said Colorado was? Marlins are the worst team in the league against lefties, a 73 WRC plus. They're a full standard deviation worse than the Rockies. So we'll see what happens here, but those are the two guys I am giving my vote of confidence to. But it's really kind of a 5-horse race, and none of them are as good as our top 4 options yesterday. It's just kind of a funny
thing. And I'll say this about Quintana. Like, I'm completely off him here. If he beats me, he beats me. But he's not particularly good, and he's only getting ownership because of the price and the matchup. And I'll say this about the Washington spot. I like Washington's offense, and they've got a ton of DFS upside because they run a ton, but they are not good against left-handed pitching. The Rockies are actually slightly better, and I think that they're worth looking at here personally. Again, that might be a foolish endeavor, but most teams are going to be a foolish endeavor because that's how baseball plays out.
So so you were saying you have your eye on a couple of Marlins?
No, Rockies.
Oh,
against
Rockies.
Quintana.
Rockies,
yeah.
Sorry.
I like Lodolo a lot. Quintana, I'm not sold on at all. I mean, he's got a 5.14 expected ERA, striking out 17% of hitters. His 318 WOBA is a lot better than his 352 expected. Like, yeah, he could get by with it again because the Rockies stink, but I think more often than the field thinks, the Rockies get to him here, and he's going to be the highest owned pitcher on the slate. So I'm personally completely off Quintana here, and I understand why he's getting love. So if he beats me, he beats me. I mean, I'll play again whenever baseball starts up.
All right, let's talk about the All-Star break here coming up. So key things you're going to want to know. This is DraftKings. We'll talk about pick six in a second, but they do have their best ball promo. So if you draft a team in their $20 best ball or their $20 $15 million prize pool best ball tournament, they'll give you one free. So basically it's buy one get one for your first one. You also if you enter that contest, you will get $5 DK generic ticket. Yes, and you can enter it up to 5 times over the next I can't tell if it's 24 or 48 hours. But if you enter that, you will get those as well, because they're trying to push people to, hey, no baseball. Why don't you guys go do some best ball drafting? How are you going to do best ball drafting? Oh, we don't have any content. Wait, we do have content. You don't have any content, but we have content. But wait, we're going to give it to you. We're going to give it to you for free. All you need is a stochastic account, and you get our best ball rankings for DK drafters and Underdog. That is all powered by the one and only Matt Kajeski. So check that out, because, hey, we're going to have 4 days off with no baseball. Well, there'll be the All-Star game, the home run derby, etc. There'll be things to wager on and such, but not exactly baseball. So the pick six, that is DK's new format. It's not available in every state, but if it is available in yours, you can take advantage of putting in $5 and getting 50 back to play their pick six games. You also have the opportunity, you can choose either one. You can do it that way, or you can play and your first slate, not just your first day, your first slate, they'll pay you back up to $200 if you lose. So if you bet 100 or you put 100 in play and you only win 50 back, they'll give you 50, right? If you put 100 in play and you win 150, they're not going to give you anything. So they're giving you kind of a try it out phase, but it's an interesting game. What it is it's static props. They lock when the slate locks. You can change your props until their game locks, but you're going against a closed field. So it's a peer-to-peer game. And what you want to remember is you're looking for leverage, because if you get something right and a bunch of other people are picking it, well, great, you just got better than anybody who didn't pick that one. If a bunch of people are picking something, you go the other way and you get it right, boom, leverage, and you dramatically outpace the field. So this is something that Eric Lindquist has done a lot of thought on and has had quite a bit of success. I know Melissa in chat, she likes this format. They just got it in Texas. She's having some success with it as well. We've got it on OddsShopper. We have the pick six tools there as well, but you guys want to check that out because it's fun, and new sports, new formats haven't been solved yet. And that's where you have an edge against the other people that are just throwing money away. Let's not be those people. All right. Anything else that you want to talk about pitching? Any mention for Brian Bello? Herman Marquez is back. You've got Ben Lively, Jake Irving. These guys don't inspire much confidence, do they?
No, I'm good on basically all those guys.
All right, let's flip the script. Who is your favorite stack today, and why is it the Philadelphia Phillies?
Yeah, I mean, it's got to be the Phillies as the top stack on the board. Now ownership will be there because they're obviously in a great spot and they're expensive, but Estes is not good, and he's really not good on the road, which makes sense because he pitches in Oakland. So, yeah, Phillies look great here. I think there are a number of offenses that look good with the Phillies. So I think it's definitely a slate where, again, kind of piggybacking off the not great pitching options, in turn with good weather in a lot of spots, there's really good stack options basically all over that just aren't getting a lot of love. So I think Philly stands out, and I wouldn't fault anyone for just jamming them in everywhere because they do look really good. So do the Dodgers, so do the Red Sox, so do the Pirates in my eyes, though. The Reds look good. The Mets, the Brewers, the Royals. So I think there's a lot of teams on this slate that you could make cases for in tournaments. I even mentioned the Rockies a little bit ago. So yeah, my favorite would be Philly, but they're expensive, and I like expensive pitching, and ownership is there. So probably not who I'm going to be prioritizing in my smaller field limited amount of lineups. But if I end up changing course and liking some cheaper pitching as the show goes on, then I'll certainly want to get there.
Right. I see. They like that I can pronounce Herman Marquez, but I can't get Brian Bello. Well, I have had a crush on Maria Bello, the actress. Still have a crush on her. She's very pretty. But you're right. I should be saying, "Hey yo, it's like Bayo." There you go. All right. Did I earn your trust back, Chad? So, Phillies yesterday, that we got the Mitch Kramer reference, right? Mitchy. 4 home runs yesterday, 3 doubles, and I forget who, but I think somebody stole a base. So it was a total thrashing. Going back to the Phillies again here, they are uh, by far and away the best stack. Now, the interesting thing about Estes is that he's an okay pitcher. And he actually seems like he's someone that not only survives, but he might be able to thrive against the weaker teams. But his fastball is not that fast. So it sits in the low 90s, which can be troublesome when you're going against a good team like the Phillies, because now he's trying to get by on deception, etc. He came over from Atlanta as part of that Matt Olson trade a few years ago. So he was drafted, if I remember correctly, I think he was drafted out of high school, and then right before the pandemic. So he's a little bit of that 2020 season with no minor league baseball kind of set him back a little bit. But I think, is someone who's a decent pitcher, but not against an elite offense like the Phillies. What do you have for number 2? Who does number 2 work?
If I had to say, my number 2 stack,
Yes.
probably the Dodgers. I don't love the ballpark, but it's the Dodgers, and they're facing Bo Brisky, I think, in the corpse of Kenta Maeda. So, yeah, the Dodgers look really good. Personally, for just the purposes of what I'm personally playing, I like Pittsburgh a lot. They're more affordable than those teams up top. I expect the ownership to be certainly less than Philly. I'm more than fine with the matchup against Jared Schuster and Chad Kuhl. So, yeah, I like Pittsburgh a lot here. But again, I don't think there's a ton separating a lot of these teams, except for Philly and the Dodgers look the best, and they'll be the highest owned.
Right. I see. Sotex, or as I like to call him, so toxic, because he's just a horrible person. Says I had a crush on Cleopatra. Yeah, there was a moment there back in the day, but I'm really telling
you were a little bit old for her, weren't you?
Yeah, I was more. Let's talk Joan of Arc, man. Boy, she could really bring the fire in the boudoir, if you know what I mean. So there we go. So funny enough, Dodgers didn't really pop up for what I was doing today either. I started looking at Pittsburgh. They get a little bit of a remember me game here against Chad Kuhl and whatever is coming from the White Sox. Essentially, I think that's going to be a bullpen game. Some version of him. I thought Schuster might be in the mix as well. They're just going to toss a bunch of things against the wall and see what sticks. So while that can be tough because you're going to get like a righty lefty thing going on there, you do have a couple switch hitters there for Pittsburgh. Let's see who ended up being in their lineup.
I mean, the other team that we have to mention that is going to be the highest owned team on the slate is Cincy. And we've seen this a bunch recently. Like they don't stand out in the top stack tool at all. They're right behind Pittsburgh, but they're coming in with the highest ownership on the slate. I'm not going to be playing Cincy myself, but that's kind of burned me all weekend. So we know they have a ton of power upside, a ton of speed upside. This Rhys Hines, who didn't project to be really much of anything, striking out a ton, but instead he's become the best hitter in all of baseball. So, yeah, I mean, I haven't been playing him, so I'm hesitant to jump on now that his price has increased. But if you have been playing him, I bet he's one of the first people you want to lock in.
Yeah, I've ended up listening to a little bit of that game. He's setting all sorts of records for like power, extra base hit, things of that nature. I think they were mostly Cincinnati records, but to start off his career. So I went and looked for him on the season leagues. I still play season leagues. It gets mostly people who care still, and he was long gone on anybody's waivers. So we're seeing his price tick up a little bit, but respect the streak until it's not there. Especially with some of these guys until the league figures out the holes in their swing. from that standpoint. So I agree that Cincinnati should be represented. I really like Tyler Stevenson batting fifth at $4,000 as the DraftKings catcher. That is a steal of a deal. You have Austin Slater there. Who did they just got him? I can't remember. They traded some pitcher for him last week, maybe, with the Giants.
I thought they just gave like cash for him, but I don't know.
Or was it cash? It was like,
it was no one of substance.
No, not at all. Not at all. I was poking around and looking at it because using Odd Chopper, which is our market-based betting approach, they had the over on Austin Slater's RBI. Over half an RBI was popping 2 days ago. So I wanted, because he was against the lefty, he's just going to be a situational guy. But I was like, when did Austin Slater end up with Cincinnati? I was like, oh, well, a few days ago. So that's, the Odd Chopper approach pits all the books against each other, which allows us to see which lines are out of whack and where we want to attack. Look at that alliteration without even trying. So you guys want to check that out. It does support all of the pick'em sites as well as DraftKings Pick 6. So that is very, very helpful. And it is builds out parlays for you. If most of the books, it actually has an upload tool that it'll enter bets for you once you choose them. It's a pretty slick thing to do or to utilize. I like the bet calculator to see what's happening for the promo bets, to see how good they are, if they're really giving you anything, or it does have good odds, parlay. You can check your parlay odds on there, because some of the sites don't like certain parlays, even team parlays. They ding you for them. I've noticed. It's like these books are trying to take our money, Matt. It's not very nice of them. Not very nice. But Odd Shopper gives you a fighting chance. $14.95 per week, $49.95 per month, and you get a dozen different Discord channels to help you with all your wagering and calling out good deals and promos and boosts and all the good stuff that's happening at all the sports books. Let's see here. I'm surprised you haven't mentioned the Rays going against Ben Lively. I did not call him Blake today. I'm working on
it. No. I mean, Lively's been okay, and this is not a good ballpark for hitting. The Rays are way, way down on my list. No interest in me there. I mean, it's baseball, and their offense isn't horrible, so they could certainly have a good game, but that's not for me. I mean, they've got basically the same top stack percentage as the Rockies, and the Rockies are in a much better hitting environment facing a chalky Quintana. So I like Colorado more as like my deep leverage stack. Pittsburgh talked about. The other team I like here is Washington. I liked them more before they were using an opener, Milwaukee, that is, because this is Strinsky for Milwaukee is really good against lefties, and you've got two lefties in the top two of the starting lineup for Washington. So again, not like a huge deal, but a lot of offenses look really good today. So the slightest of differences can make a big change in the margins. So I like Washington. I actually kind of like the lower half of their lineup better, just because of price tags. Certainly, if you can get to CJ Abrams, Lane Thomas, do your thing. But Juan Yepez, 2,500. He's been swinging a really hot bat. Heber Ruiz, cheap catcher with power. So yeah, those two guys. I don't really love the stack, but I like those two guys, and I like a mini stack.
All right. And then a great game environment in Cincinnati, or probably in St. Louis, with the heat there in the Midwest. But the pitchers, those pitchers kind of absorb a lot of damage here. Now, we did see Michaelis give up, I can't remember what it was, 9 runs in an inning or two a couple starts ago. Tyon doesn't get strikeouts, but he is having a pretty solid season as well. Anything standing out for those offenses for you?
Not really, no.
Okay.
I mean, the weather is amazing in that game, so sure. And I don't think either pitcher is great, but there's worse pitchers on the slate to pick on for sure.
That makes sense. Philly Phantom left a $1.99 super chat here. It says, please talk cash pitchers and settings for simulation, using the Sims for cash. It's harder to use the Sims for cash because, and it's not impossible, it's just a little trickier because it's looking at ROI. and it's going to focus on an infinite time horizon, and that makes it go against oftentimes what would be a good cash lineup. Now, it doesn't mean it's wrong. There's many ways to build these things out in baseball, but it usually a good way to think about it is if you're building out several thousand lineups, usually the top couple projected pitchers in your portfolio, percentage wise, they're probably your better cash game options. Another thing to look at cash game options, if you're just trying to look at it yourself, is who has the best win odds and the lowest win total, or the lowest implied run total against, and that's a good way to find your cash pitchers. But the lineup generator is better at building out cash lineups than the Sims package. Is a way of thinking about it, at least how I would want to build it. If you've got the Sims package, then you do have access to the top pitchers tool. Usually you can look at one of the top 3 or 4 options. Those should probably be your cash game pitchers. So today it would be Keller. It would probably be Quintana, depending on how you think about it. Pepio's in the mix, as Matt called out. And who did I not say? I'm missing someone there. I said Keller. Oh, Lodolo. Sorry, Lodolo. You can kind of mix and match. Each person has a little bit of a question mark. Keller's question mark is he's a little expensive. All right, so he's probably the safest. Lodolo's got the most strikeout upside. Quintana's got the best matchup, and Pepio probably has the best combination of those two things. Close your eyes and pick them. If we flipped over and somebody had one of those 3 guys along with Keller, I wouldn't worry about, or I wouldn't think I had the advantage by any stretch. There was one other super chat here. Thank you to Chris Williams for gifting those 5 YouTube memberships. And then Einsteinium, 17-month member chat here. He says, Matt, talk to me about the Guardians against Pepio.
Yeah, I don't hate it as a leverage stack. I much prefer it to Tampa, which you had asked me about earlier. Problem is, I respect Pepio, and it's a bad hitting environment, or bad relative to the slate. So if I were playing 150, I'd be getting over the field, but it's really hard to prioritize them in like minimal lineups because they're also crazy expensive. So they're the most expensive stack on the board, and they're not really in a spot that fits that. So in tournaments, I don't hate them, but far, far from a priority.
Right. Any other team you want to mention here on the earlier or the main slate? And we'll hit this 4-game late slate. We'll also do our home run calls here as
well. No, I think we got it.
All right. Who do you have for your home run calls?
I am going to go with, give me some lefty on lefty crime, Ryan McMahon.
Oh, okay. Okay, that one's gonna leave a mark. That hurts. Going against my guy. You know what? O'Neal Cruz.
I was thinking him too. I really was thinking him.
It's close between him and Brian Reynolds. Reynolds has to switch hit, but O'Neal Cruz is going to get some at bats against Chad Kuhl. So that's what we need. That's what we need. Let's see. Let's go to our later slate here. So no Sunday night baseball because of the All-Star break coming up. So we've got a 4-game afternoon slate. A lot of good pitching here. You've got Blake Snell, you've got Logan Gilbert, you've got Chris Sale, Zach Gallen, and then somehow Yusei Kikuchi giving up home runs, but also racking up the strikeouts. So he's going against Arizona. Arizona, one of the better teams against lefties. I don't feel quite so comfortable about that. It looks like it's going to be Chris Sale. Yeah, big surprise there, not going out on a limb by any stretch. He is basically having a career year. He and Zach Wheeler are the front runners for the National League Cy Young Award, with Paul Skeens breaking away from the pack, trying to chase them down. Sale, funny enough, has never won a Cy Young Award, but from 2012 to 2019, so that 7-year stretch, he finished 6th or higher in the Cy Young voting every year. Got as close as 2nd, but never got one. But he's having a very strong season. We're probably going to get Xander Bogaerts back in the lineup. He missed about 2 months. I believe it was a shoulder issue. He played 2 games ago, got a couple hits, got yesterday off. Should be back in the lineup today. They're easing him in, but obviously no Fernando Tatis Jr. weakens this lineup. The broadcast yesterday was talking up Donovan Solano. I don't really like him in this matchup against Sale. I don't like any of them in the matchup against Sale. And you will see, who's the not Profar? Cronenworth's probably going to sit today. So against the lefty. But I like Sale 1, Gilbert 2, and then probably Gallen 3. Is that where you'd go?
Yeah, I mean, it's tough. Like you mentioned, all 3 of these, the pitching on this slate is, I mean, so much better than the main slate. It's just weird how it works out like that.
Do you want to pay $7,500 on DraftKings for the Blake Snell experience today? Do you want to feel alive?
Man, I'll tell you what, with this Twins lineup right now, depending on what they do, obviously no Royce Lewis. Correa was scratched yesterday. Jose Miranda's out.
Miranda went on the IL.
They started Christian Vasquez at third base yesterday.
Did they really?
They did. His first start ever. He is like, that's bad. So yeah, I mean, I totally get Snell here. As far as matchups go, like this slate is fun because the really good pitching options and also really good offenses. So I think, man, I struggle with Sale because he is just the best pitcher in DFS right now outside of Paul Skeens probably. It's a really tough matchup, though. San Diego doesn't strike out hardly against anyone. Yeah. Now, they haven't been good against lefties much this year, and obviously no Tatis. So, yeah, I'll say Sale, Snell, Gallen. I do think it's those 3 by a pretty large margin, especially considering where Gilbert is priced. I think Gilbert is a comparable pitcher to Gallen. I think Gallen is better, and he's at home, and Gilbert is on the road where he's not as good. You know, matchup is probably better for Gilbert, but I'm not scared of Toronto either. It's definitely better for Gilbert because Toronto doesn't strike out a lot, but I trust Gallen more. So for me, it's going to be Sale, Snell, Gallen, Gilbert. Kikuchi, I can't get to I don't use lefties against Arizona.
Yep, I'm putting in. I've reminded me back to for Philly Phantom a run. I don't know why I didn't say this from the jump. The free Spotlight Pitchers Top Stacks article every day. I typically write up who my main lineup pitchers are going to be. At least one of them will be in my DK Cash lineup, and a lot of times both of them. I go a little bit differently in DK Cash. I don't take a lot of risks per se, but I don't always try to pick the chalkiest pitcher, and I'm not afraid to be different. Because you're usually looking at such a minuscule median projection difference that I like to find a little bit of leverage against the field there.
I might like Gallen more than Snell. This Blue Jays lineup just came out. Freaking awful. I mean, Springer, Horwitz, Guerrero, Jansen is fine. No problems there. Varsho, Ernie Clement, Leo Jimenez, Kevin Kiermaier, and Baroa. So yeah, I don't know much about Baroa right now.
No, yeah, I was like, who?
I'm sure they just called him up. I've seen him in the player pool before. Stewart, Baroa, quick look. I mean, it's not someone like that is projected to be very good, and he's hitting 9th for the Jays today. So yeah, Snell's price tag is. I think you could play Snell and Gallen and not play Sale because Sale is very expensive and Gallen, and it's not like you're spending down on mediocre pitching. Gallen and Snell are very good in their own rights. And there are expensive bats worth getting to on this slate. So it's between those 3 for me. I would have no problem not playing Sale though, if I had to.
When we're looking at offenses here, you're going to want to pick on Randy Vasquez. He has allowed just 3 runs in his last 3 starts. That's 15 in the 3rd inning. They pushed him. He was going to start 2 days ago, and they put Matt Waldron back in the lineup and moved Vasquez. They would prefer not to pitch him, but they're going to have to here. 16.7% strikeout rate. That's not good. 47% hard hit rate. That's not good. He has been living on borrowed time. So even without Acuna and Michael Harris, you want to look to Ozuna, who's been hitting the cover off the ball. Austin Riley, Ozzie Albies, Matt Olson, Jared Kelenic, hell, even Eddie Rosario, whoever's the catcher, Adam Duvall, anybody can be in this lineup at this point. I feel
Man,
like did I leave anybody out?
No, but I like how they priced the Braves today because if you play, it's almost impossible to fully stack the Braves if you play Sale with any of the other good pitching options. Even with Gallen and Snell, like it's tough to get all the good Braves. And I like that because I think they're in by far the best spot. Yeah, this is a fun slate.
All right. Geronimo Baroa. Yes, Duck Dubs. I do remember Baroa. There's a blast.
Blast from the past. Yep.
Good times. Good times. All right. What are we at? We got about 18 minutes until lock here. Just doing one last look across the weather. No issues here. It's warm. It's nice and windy in a lot of these places. So that is going to be a bonus. 4 days off for baseball. I'm sure we will have something covering the All-Star break for MLB. I bet you guys can convince Eric Lindquist to do a show and talk about playing catchers in the All-Star game. Because remember, there's 2 catchers per team, so they tend to split it, and they're almost guaranteed 2 at bats, maybe even 3. And that's what you're not going to see from a lot of the position players. Other thing to remember is, even the pitchers who start will rarely go into the second inning. Occasionally they will. It might
They're
be,
not.
The only person I really remember, I think Pedro Martinez did, like the year he struck out, like the first 6 batters he faced or the first 5 batters, whatever it was. But they usually only go 1 inning, and for half these guys, it's just a throw day. As well. And we saw Sale get his start pushed, so he couldn't pitch in the All-Star game. So teams don't really want their pitchers in the All-Star game, especially those who are playoff contenders. So just keep those things in mind. But let's do some home runs here on the late slate, and then let's do the lineup generator, Mike. We can get on out of here. I'll let you go first.
I'm going to go with Stuart Baroa. No, I'm just kidding. I'm going to go with, you know what? Give me Jorge Soler to lead off the game with the bomb off Paddock. I don't think Paddock's very good. I think the Giants are interesting on this slate.
All right. I am going to say we're going with the Ola Bicholas home run. Lourdes Gurriel against his former squad. There we go. Yeah, he's been away from him for 2 years, but we're going with Lourdes Gurriel.
Yeah, it's been away from him for 2 years, but they teams barely play each other. So
yeah,
it's worth something.
Good times. All righty. So let's do the top stacks or the lineup generator tool here. We did FanDuel yesterday. We'll do DraftKings today. Now everybody complain in chat about me not doing FanDuel. Let's do 5 threes here to have some fun. With this, Mike. Let's do contrarian lineups. Let's see how few Phillies or how many Phillies we end up getting. You guys can lock in your pitcher if you would like. You can lock in a batter. For your stacks on DraftKings, you can set the default to 5-3, 4-4, or 5-0, or you can just accept any type stacks. Let's put in Bryce Harper just for Mike because that will make him happy. Let's lock him in. And let's build out some lineups. You can build out up to 20 lineups here in the holding pen. You can check the portfolio at any point in time, but let's put 20 in here. You like a lineup, hit save. You don't like it, hit discard. Once you get into the portfolio here on the right side, you can see all your players. You see we locked in Harper, so he is in 100% of lineups there. Looks like we got a lot of Garrett Stubbs as the cheap catcher there. He's in half the lineups. Tons of Phillies. So even though we said go contrarian, you can see that in baseball, it is easier to get contrarian with the secondary stack or the 3rd or 4th most popular pitcher, etc. So if you click on a player, you'll see that it highlights the lineups they're in and moves them to the top. Over there, you can look at the drop down, see if you like the lineup. Maybe you don't want to play Herman Marquez in that one. You can always swap him out for somebody else. You got to do a little bit of mental math there, but you probably have enough there left to swap him out and get I don't know, Nicholas or whatever. So there you go. Probably not Chad.
That cool fit. Yeah.
Yeah, Chad, he's so cool. He's so cool. but that is the lineup generator. Very easy to build out your lineups, download them, and then upload them to your DFS site of choice. You got to download your CSV from the other site. Someone was saying, well, I can't, it's not accepting me uploading the file. Correct, because the lineup generator doesn't know what contests you've entered. So it's going to kick out the player pool. You got to copy that into the upload template from DraftKings or FanDuel, whichever you are playing on. But aside from that, that is one of the more popular tools. And it's built on everything that we use for The Sims. And this is our CEO, Tom, has said that he feels the lineup generator, is the biggest thing that takes the lesser players, or closes the gap between players and the apex predators. He says even more so than the Sims tool. So this is a really inexpensive way to get some excellent power behind it. You've got the leverage built in, top stacks tool, ownership, all that stuff. It's going to kick out lineups for you that are just a positive expected value. And we see people winning tournaments with this all the time. So bang for your buck. This is probably the best tool that we have. When you get a subscription for this, you can just get the lineup generator package. It also gets you access to the Discord. So check that out. Final thoughts, Matt, before we scoot on out of here.
Yeah, All-Star break coming up. So give us a nice extended break for a while. Excited about that. We'll be happy when baseball comes back in a few days. Yeah, let's have some fun and win some money today.
All right. So toxic in the chat. I'm going to have to ban that guy. He just the toxicity is everywhere. You guys can follow Matt on Twitter at Fantasy Tips Matt. That Fantasy Tips Matt, that's a little risque. So you follow Matt on X at Fantasy Tip Matt.
Matt, for just the tips.
For just the tips.
I feel like we've done this before. We've been through this.
It's been a little bit of a while. It's been a little while.
I knew at some point you were going to go back to it. I respect it. It's
too good. You can find me at boring old EMac DFS, and of course, it is stochastic_COM. With that, gamers, good luck.